Do you believe a powerful CEO could be humiliated just for waiting? And then he turned that very moment into revenge that set the entire internet on fire. Before people called me a powerful billionaire, I was once insulted just for sitting and waiting like a nobody. That was the day the whole world thought I would stay silent. But no, I turned an ordinary waiting chair into a weapon to destroy an entire empire. From a humiliating wait, I made the whole internet explode and turned the one who disrespected me into a laughingstock for millions. And it all began with one stupid comment from a waiter. Don't miss it. Hit subscribe now so you won't miss the shocking twist that's coming. I am a black CEO. But don't think the road to where I am today was paved with roses. I was born in a neighborhood where gunfire was more familiar than alarm clocks. People said I'd end up in prison or die young. I thought differently. I thought if I was born in hell, I'd become a demon to escape it. From a kid selling newspapers in the rain, I climbed into the CEO's chair of a billion-dollar corporation. Sounds like a movie, right? But I swear to you, it's all true, or at least true the way I remember it. However, even when I held power and money, there are moments when life slaps you in the face to remind you you're still judged by your skin color, by how you look. Can you believe it? A man who was once invited to speak at the United Nations. A man who could sign an order and cost hundreds of employees their jobs, was treated with contempt just for sitting on a cheap swivel chair in a restaurant. That made me realize, no matter how high you climb, the world will still try to drag you down. The question is, will you stay silent and endure the humiliation? Or turn that humiliation into a weapon for revenge? What would you choose if you were me? Leave your answer in the comments. I want to know what you'd do. That night, I walked into one of the most luxurious restaurants in the city. The suit on my body cost as much as a year's salary for the staff working there. The watch on my wrist was worth enough to buy a car. But do you know what happened? The waiter didn't even bother to look at me. He gave me a half smile, the kind you'd throw at a beggar on the street. Then he pointed toward a cheap little chair by the entrance. A wobbly chair, cramped and creaking like it could snap any second. Sit there. I'll call you when I feel like it, he said. The whole room went silent, waiting to see how I would react. A few other guests glanced over, then snickered quietly. Who did they think I was? Some lost outsider who had accidentally wandered into the paradise of the rich? Do you know what it feels like to be disrespected in the very world you helped build? It cuts deeper than any knife. But I didn't get angry. I simply sat down, silent, and waited. I didn't wait because I was weak. I waited because I knew that with every minute on that cheap chair, I was writing another line in my revenge story. A plan that even that smug little waiter could never see coming. If you were in my place, would you stand up and walk away, or sit back and watch as he dug his own grave? Tell me what you'd do. I sat there. Not a word. No furrowed brow. No reaction. The people around me began to grow puzzled. A powerful CEO, a man who once commanded with fire, how could he calmly sit on a wobbly chair like a waiter waiting for orders? They didn't know that my silence has never meant weakness. It has always been the calm before the storm. I watched the waiter pace back and forth, arrogant and contemptuous. Every time he passed me, he would toss his chin as if to say, "This is my territory, you're just a nobody customer." People thought I was holding back. But in truth, I was counting the seconds he still had left safe in that job. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A message from my assistant, "Boss, they're prepping for next week's launch event. This restaurant needs a reputation more than ever." I let out a quiet chuckle. Just a small smile, but if anyone was sharp enough, they'd see the hunter's light flicker in my eyes. Have you ever seen a lion pretend to sleep while the herd of gazelles happily thinks it's tired? Yes, I am that lion. And this restaurant is about to become my savannah. What do you think? Is silence weakness, or the perfect disguise for a lethal strike? Comment and tell me. Let's see if anyone can see through my next move. I could see that look of contempt was not limited to a single glance. It spread like smoke, seeping across the tables, into every corner of the room. The waiter began to speak louder, his voice like salt rubbed into an old wound of mine. "Sit and wait, I'll call you when I'm free." A simple sentence, but it contained an entire universe of scorn. The guests around us snickered, as if watching a stand-up routine on their private stage. A girl even took out her phone to record covertly, her eyes curious as if waiting for entertainment. My anger did not erupt immediately. Instead, there was a cold feeling, deeper than rage. I remembered every time I had been put down because of my skin, my name, my face. Those invisible scars now thrilled at meeting someone foolish enough to mock me. He thought he had the right to judge, he thought he held the measure of propriety. But he didn't know that each mocking word of his was engraving itself into a script that had been written in my head for a long time. I watched, I took notes, and I placed each puzzle piece into the perfect spot for the revenge that was coming. A few guests started whispering, speculating. They expected a fight, a public dressing down, or at least some instant drama. They were very wrong. I was preparing a much bigger performance, a strike that would make everyone forget they ever laughed at me. Have you ever seen someone trampled before your eyes and not intervened? Would you stay silent or stand up to defend them? If you want to see how I turn that contempt into an unrelenting blow, hit subscribe now so you don't miss the next part. I heard the whisper of my phone and smiled like someone who'd just hit the jackpot. A message from my assistant popped up. They need a major investor for the launch event. They don't know who will show up. I closed my eyes for a second and imagined everything unfolding like a map. Opportunities don't arrive head-on, they flash in like lightning through a window. The waiter thought he was the one in charge, but he was just a small cog in a system I could control. I remembered board meetings where I could tilt the market with a single nod. Now, I only needed a small backstage move to put this restaurant squarely in my sights. I stepped forward, not loudly, just enough for every eye to follow. A cold smile touched my lips, like an unspoken, "time to pay." I called a friend on my PR team, and within minutes a meticulous strategy was planned. Not a brute force attack, but a credibility push, a little spark meant to set social media on fire. A few clips, an emotional account, the right hashtags at the right time, and the whole city would talk about this restaurant in ways they never expected. I looked at the waiter and saw that his fake authority was starting to tremble. The opportunity wasn't about reckless revenge. It was about fixing a history to show the world who the real boss really is. What would you do if given the choice, use your power to expose the truth or to quietly bury it? Leave a comment. I want to know if you have the same courage as I do. I pulled my phone out like a magician pulling cotton from a hat. I tapped the name of the person who would make this happen, the PR lead I'd worked with since the company was still in a garage. I whispered a few words, and the game officially began. The first move wasn't a slap or an attack post. It was a subtle invitation sent to the city's tastemakers. I reserved a few random seats for top influencers, the ones always hungry for drama but who never embarrass a brand. I booked a small table near the entrance, where my wobbly chair still felt warm. I made no fuss. I simply let the pieces of the story fall into the hands of people who know how to fan a flame. A short video was produced, not exactly a public accusation, but an emotional slice enough to spark curiosity. A story was told incompletely, leaving viewers to connect the dots themselves. A hashtag was dropped into the right group at the right time, and the social media bees started swarming the bait. Within hours, the first few interactions turned into a wave. The restaurant suddenly began receiving strange reviews, half-suspecting comments, and questions from the community. The waiter still looked at me, not understanding that he had stepped into a trap far more sophisticated than the cheap performance he thought he was putting on. I could taste victory in the air, but I didn't celebrate yet. The first move was only laying the foundation for the earthquake to come. Have you ever planned a strike so well that others think it was just coincidence? Tell me about your experience in the comments. I thought it would all stop at those first waves of interaction. But then, the twist struck like lightning on a clear sky. A famous influencer posted a short clip with the caption, "Something's not right here." The clip wasn't explicit, but it was enough for the crowd to start stitching fragments of the story together. Next came a food blogger, someone close to the restaurant, who suddenly dropped a post half true, half invented. The post spoke of a strange guest treated poorly, but slipped in one detail that made everyone stop and look closer. I hadn't revealed that detail, but it was like a spark hitting a massive haystack. Within hours, the hashtag I'd seeded in my first move exploded into a trend. The small, scattered comments turned into furious, relentless waves. The restaurant began receiving emails from reporters, then from people demanding answers. The waiter I'd been watching still believed he was blameless, but the world outside was asking a different question. Who's responsible for that behavior? My phone buzzed non-stop with interview requests and offers to share the story. I stayed silent for the moment, watching the wave I'd unleashed crash ashore. This was the moment my script came alive, growing beyond even what I had calculated. The twist wasn't me revealing who I was. The twist was the public transforming a small incident into a courtroom of judgment. And in that moment, I knew I had taken the seat of the true storyteller. Do you think this twist was luck or the product of a perfectly calculated plan? Social media exploded. Every hashtag and clip spread faster than a virus. People stopped calling this a simple story. They called it the biggest humiliation of the year. In just 24 hours, over 1 million views poured onto the short video showing me sitting on that wobbly chair. The waiter, who had thought he was in control, suddenly became the villain everyone was talking about. Thousands of angry comments appeared, calling to boycott the restaurant, demanding justice for the mysterious patron. They didn't know who I was. But that very mystery made the storm blow even harder. I didn't need to say a word. The online community did it for me. They dug into the restaurant's history, pulled up old complaints, and blew every detail into a fire of outrage. News sites jumped in quickly, labeling it an unbelievable scandal at the heart of the city. The man who once mocked me was now turned into a joke for millions. I sat in my office, watching the numbers spike, and knew the revenge had exceeded expectations. I hadn't just won a small chess match. I turned my initial silence into the most powerful weapon, letting my opponent collapse under the glare of public scrutiny. What do you think? Is real power in money and influence, or in the ability to rile up the crowd at the perfect moment? Leave a comment below. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss the finale, where all the secrets get exposed. I had been silent long enough. The storm had grown to a point where no one could control it anymore. And then, I appeared. I stepped in front of the cameras, no script, no team standing behind me. Just one sentence, the man who was humiliated in that clip was me. The entire press room exploded like a bomb. Camera flashes went off non-stop, hundreds of microphones pointed straight at me. The name of a black CEO of a billion-dollar corporation was tied to a restaurant scandal in mere seconds. The crowd could hardly believe it. I recounted the moment I sat on that wobbly chair, the contemptuous look I had to endure. I didn't shout. I spoke in a calm voice, letting each word fall like a hammer striking stone. The issue isn't me. The issue is that anyone could become the next victim of that kind of disdain. Millions watched the live stream. The hashtag shot to #1 worldwide. The restaurant collapsed before the public eye without me lifting a finger. Shareholders fled. The board fell into crisis. The waiter vanished as if he had never existed. The peak of revenge isn't screaming in the face of the one who disrespected you. It's making him watch as the entire world brands him a failure. If it were you, would you dare reveal your identity while the whole internet was on fire? Would you choose to hide or step into the heart of the storm? That restaurant closed in silence. The once luxurious sign now lay in splintered, rotting wood. The waiter who had once been arrogant disappeared off the map, no one mentioned him anymore. That story was more than revenge. It was a reminder that the world always judges you by what it sees in the first few seconds. But you have the right to turn that very contempt into leverage to rise higher. I didn't get revenge with fists. I got revenge with reputation, with the power of silence and timing. And that is what made the one who disrespected me collapse under the gaze of the whole world. So what's my message? Never underestimate anyone. And if you are disrespected, don't rush to retaliate. Let them dig their own grave and then turn that grave into the tomb of their arrogance. Do you believe silence can be stronger than a storm? Leave a comment and let me know.